Hey, welcome back. Anyways, on to the video. Dear viewer, please don't get the wrong idea here. This is not a how-to on to become a tuner. This is simply showing that if I can start tuning, then you can start tuning. That's where I got the title of the video. If I can tune, you can tune. Now, since I'm a curious man, I thought it would be a good idea to try out an closed loop. Much like NASCAR, where they're going in circles around the track, closed loop idle works by checking where we want the RPM to be, seeing how far we are away from that RPM, and then making an adjustment and just doing this circular pattern over and over again. So anyways, here's my attempt at that. Now, this idle not staying steady, that's called an hunting idle. And much like your redneck uncle's groundhog stew, it's not very good. Since I, of course, have little idea how any of this works, I resort to the one thing I know how to use: auto-tune. Oh boy. Clearly, closed loop idle is a battle for another day, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that video when it finally comes down the pipeline. Despite my abuse of autotune, there is one piece of autotune that I have actually learned something from. It's the warm-up enrichment autotune. If you couldn't tell, it tunes the warm-up enrichment. As you get your volumetric efficiency table closer and closer, you can use that so that way your warm-up enrichment curve is nice and close to the approximate of what it could be. And just from the things that it displays in the nice little window, you can actually kind of tell what's going on. Behind me is the dashboard as I'm driving around my property. This bar right here, that's the O2 sensor. Now I'm under the impression that if I was doing this right, I'd be on a dyno and I'd be logging this information out. With that information out, I'd actually make adjustments to the volumetric efficiency table. Simply compare the O2 reading to the target O2 and make adjustments accordingly. However, I'm silly and I'm just blindly trusting auto-tune. But I'm an absolute degenerate. Of course I'm going to drive around my property with auto-tune just in the background running everything for me. I mean, just look at all these gosh dang adjustments it's making for me. Isn't this just all, look at it. Look at the colors changing. Now, at the time, I knew I was committing absolute travesties. And you may be thinking to yourself, as a noob, this auto-tune thing seems like it could very well be a magic bullet. But it's not. It'll tune around the various problems that you have inside your Jeep. It's not a good time unless your Jeep is actually set up properly. Auto-tune is blind to any problems with your setup. It's also blind to a little thing we like to call transient events. Transient event, much like it sounds, it comes and goes quickly. So you don't want to adjust your tune heavily against events that might not always be occurring. A good example of this is acceleration enrichment. Whenever you blip that throttle, there's just that quick little millisecond addition of fuel. So you want to make sure that you're not tuning your engine against that little addition of fuel. It's episode 2 of You Can Tune. We're making all the typical mistakes that one would make if you're just relying on auto-tune and not really understanding what you're doing. I've auto-tuned when I shouldn't have. I flat out ignored issues in hopes of coming back to them later. with that stock timing map, I wouldn't be surprised if I've done actual damage to my engine. But listen, there's no shame in starting off with a little bit of a beater engine and working your way up to the big dog engine swaps. The big dog engines, those cost money. Cheap little Jeep motors, those are a dime a dozen, it feels like, you know? It's a good way to learn. Consider it. Just consider it. I'll catch you in the next and last episode of our You Can Tune series. An episode where I make by far some of my worst mistakes. But it's a very special episode to me, so I can't wait to see ya. Don't go too far now. Okay. Okie dokie, folks. That's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed. I'll obviously catch you on the next one. I'll always be here doing my goofy goober thing. As I like to say, I do have a bit of a strange obsession with Jeeps. So let's do some more Jeep stuff.